welcome back to the other side with me, your host, ASOS. I hope you guys are having a very, very wonderful day today. Today I'm going to be talking about how I keep falling in love with El Paso because it just has this unique history. You keep finding something shocking every single day about El Paso, and I truly believe that the reason why we keep unearthing so much about El Paso's past is because at this current moment, El Paso is trying to grow, it's trying its best to develop itself into the future. But while pushing itself to the future, it is unearthing a lot of things from the past that a lot of people either didn't know about, forgotten about, or maybe didn't even realize that it was there because, again, it's been like years and people are still just shocked over what you can find when you renovate a building or when you dig somewhere in El Paso's downtown. I want to tell you guys today that the reason why I'm talking about this is because while I was doing my job, I got told that the park nearby had so many bodies unearthed. And they said this so nonchalantly. They were like, by the way, the park over there, we unearthed so many bodies. And then just moved on with their lives. And I was just sitting there like, you are going to skip past what I think you're skipping past. I was like, you need to pump the brakes and you need to rewind and tell me about these bodies that you unearthed at that park over there. Not only do you hear it from people who have worked on improving that park and making that park beautiful, you also hear it from the neighbors. You hear it from people who live within the neighborhood about how haunted the entire area is. Because this neighborhood is called Sunset Heights here in El Paso, Texas. It is a historic neighborhood. It is one of the first established neighborhoods here in El Paso. So welcome to the other side. This is going to be the other side of Mundy Park. Why are we talking about this? Because like I said, this is a historic neighborhood that literally had a park unearthed with so many bodies. And that you got to ask yourself, why were there those bodies there? What happened that we just forgot about all these dead people that were just sitting there? And what is going on now? So there's two different sides of this, okay? I tried my best to unearth the other side of this because I got told by other people like, yeah, of course there's bodies there. That was where Pancho Villa hid out. That's where a lot of conflict happened when it was already established as a neighborhood. But I want to go before it was established. So back in the day, El Paso did not have established parks. They didn't have established parks and actually didn't even have established neighborhoods. Everything in El Paso back in the 1800s was downtown and that's it. Then it got moved, of course, from downtown and central and it moved outwards. But everything from here was where it was all at. And there was no established cemeteries. A lot of people say that Concordia Cemetery was the first cemetery here in El Paso. There's one cemetery that opened before Concordia existed. And that was Smelters. Smelters or Mundy Heights. Now, the two are in the same area. And the thing is that there is not a lot of record, though, on this one. This one was supposed to be established in 1882 based on what the Historic Society of El Paso could gather. Now, the reason why they have some predictions about this cemetery and why they're able to backtrack on the records for this is because it came when a pioneer developer, H.M. Mundy, which is why it was established as Mundy Heights and the park was later called Mundy Park, but it was within the Smelters neighborhood area. So before it was called Sunset Heights, it was called the Smelters neighborhood area, and then the name changed, everything got developed, and there is a lot of parallels with this area. So that's why I'm saying that, like, historically, when you're looking at the records, it's hard because they're trying to piece together, is everything all conjoined together? Is everything separate, since there's not a lot of record on it? And the historians are trying to basically piece together with what evidence they found with what records we have. And what one of the records that they have is from an early newspaper from the Lone Star that states that the city had purchased the 1.5 acres from H.M. Mundy for $75. And this is also where they have some records, and this is why they're piecing together the records. It was located about 3/4 miles west of the Sunset Heights Reservoir, but it was not a very suitable area for a cemetery. There was complaints since it was on a hill west of the waterworks and the soil had loose gravel. It was impossible to dig decent graves. It caused burials to be delayed, and there was so many significant issues that it just closed as fast as it opened. And bodies were supposedly removed. So this is why I like to also say that, El Paso has a flooding issue. El Paso's had a flooding issue since the 1800s, and we have never ever fixed this issue. There are so many records when you look back in El Paso's history about how many different floods we've had, how badly it floods here, and how much it has impacted, our living situation. Because, when there was no established cemeteries, the reason why this was such a problem was because people were burying their bodies wherever because the laws were laxed. And what would happen is when it would rain and when it would flood, these bodies would just come up off the ground. And I'll be honest with you, they have admitted that some of those bodies got moved. So that's why I'm also saying is that, like, they're renovating El Paso, they're building El Paso to be better, and they're shocked that they're finding things. And I'm like, but remember when we didn't have any cemeteries and people were just burying people wherever they wanted to? Number one, there's probably no records of where they buried these people. Number two, these bodies got moved up and shifted around in all the flooding and all the rain that would happen here in El Paso. So even though you think that you got the bodies to stay where they were originally buried, there is a huge likelihood and a huge possibility that these bodies got shifted and they got moved, and that's why I am very convinced that while in 2023, this was very, very recent, this was May 2023, you can look this up. It is an article, and I will also post this in the description below alongside with the El Paso history records, that when in 2023 and when they were working on renovating the park, this is why I believe that they found so many bodies and why they were shocked over it. Because number one, whenever somebody says, hey, we removed all the bodies from a cemetery, most likely it didn't happen. Sorry, sometimes they miss bodies. Again, a lot of bodies got shifted, a lot of bodies got moved because this was not a very good area for bodies anyways to be buried there because of the rain and because of how poor the soil was. And number three, also, a lot of people said that this was a site of a lot of conflict. So even though after it was a cemetery, there was still things that happened in this neighborhood and the laws were still laxed, that people still probably buried people in this area despite the fact that there was no longer a cemetery there. So I think that these factors played into the fact that they just unearthed a lot of different bodies during this excavation that they did on the park. Before this, it was a trolley turnaround. It was a vital hub for the early streetcar system. But after this, then that's when 3 parks got established within Sunset Heights. But Mundy is the one where everything was unearthed and the truth of the neighborhood came out. It is a diamond-shaped park. And Sunset Heights neighborhood is a very interesting neighborhood because of the architecture, the way that they built everything. They have like one little square park in that area. They have the diamond shaped, but I like to say it's a triangle still, for the park, and some of the buildings are like on like one little lot, and it's like a whole street around it. So it's a very, very interesting neighborhood. So now I bet you're wondering, okay, well, we talk about spooky, we talk about ooky things. So I would like to say that the neighbors in the area have stated that they have seen shadow figures at the park. They have seen figures there in the park. A lot of people say that sometimes when they go, they feel heavy. Some people have said that they hear things, and they have learned that when you hear things, you just stay silent about it. You just ignore it. So the park itself actually does have some paranormal activity that does happen there, and the neighbors within the area have seen all of this unfold at that park. Now, like I said, it's a rich area. It's a rich neighborhood filled with stories. They have the Hickson house, which is rumored to host a soldier and an elderly woman. They have the Burgess house, where a transparent robe figure was photographed, and spirits communicate with the residents alongside of tons of mysterious child apparitions near the Quaker Meeting House. The El Paso Times even did an article back in 2009 called Haunted Neighborhoods, and it states that one of the residents was curious about the strange noises that were originating from the floorboards underneath her home, but she'll never allow her inquisitive mind to get the best of her. She says that, she does have a basement, and she'll hear pots, pans, sounds like people cooking down there, all sorts of things. So the home was built in 1913, and a lot of the homes within the neighborhood have century-old tunnels that smugglers had used. The passageways are supposedly bricked up, but a lot of other people say that they're not bricked up. There are a lot of people that do state that some of the tunnels are still accessible. So, she is hearing things down in the floorboards below. And I do strongly believe that the tunnels in Sunset Heights are still being used, and you can still go down there today. I really do like the tunnels in El Paso because nobody's allowed in them. And I want to know what's down there. So so this is a very old neighborhood, and one of the other residents said that they're more afraid of the living, and she lives in a Victorian style home, and she says that if she ever saw a ghost, she would just say, "Hey, you want to have a drink?" And I think that's very interesting for them to say that. So the residents are very like aware of the ghosts in this neighborhood, but they're like very like chilled about it. They're like, "Oh yeah, there's ghosts here," and they're like, "Yeah, whatever." Like they'll give you a whole tour about it. Like when I was in that neighborhood, yeah, the neighbors were like, "And let me tell you about this house, and let me tell you about that house, and let me tell you about the tunnels underneath my house," and they're very much embracing it, and they're not afraid to tell the ghost stories that happen within that neighborhood. So if you guys do go down to Mundy Park, you guys can definitely sit there at night and see if you guys see anything. Do you see any old soldiers? Do you see anybody from when the conflict was there? Do you see anybody that was possibly buried there and still linger around? And I also want to know if you guys think that if maybe one day we have to excavate the area, if we would find any more bodies within that area. This is the other side of Mundy Park in El Paso, Texas. I was your host, ASOS. I hope that you guys enjoyed this spooky tale of a spooky park, and I hope that you guys have a very, very wonderful day. I will see you on the next one. Stay spooky, stay kooky, stay ooky. Goodbye.